Have you ever held the belief that once I reach this milestone in my life, or once I achieve this goal, then I will be happy? While going through the motions, achieving this goal, you tell yourself it's all only temporary. The stress of wedding planning, the endless hours interning for your degree program, unpaid, the discomfort of pregnancy, the pains and injuries from marathon training, the months, years, or decades of saving money and navigating the red tape of the torturous mortgage process. You convince yourself it's all leading somewhere great. And once you cross that finish line, once you get the degree, land the dream job, once you hold your new baby for the first time, once you move into the house, or once you say, I do, then you'll finally feel it. Then I'll be happy. When you finally get there, well, it feels great at first, but over time, something feels off. Some days go by and it's just back to reality. The ring might glitter on your finger. The degree may come in the mail within the next month or so. You move all your furniture into your new house. You wake up next to your new spouse. And yet all this happiness and the daydreams and the way you pictured this was all going to feel and imagined your life would be like, it doesn't really arrive the way you had thought it would for all this time. The world doesn't suddenly feel brighter. The noise in your head doesn't quiet down about what's next and what's next. You wait for that deep exhale, that sense of finally, I've arrived. But it never fully comes. Instead, there's this strange emptiness and a quiet question that you can't quite shake. Wasn't this supposed to feel different? This mistaken belief that reaching a future goal will achieve everlasting happiness was coined by Harvard psychologist Tal Ben-Shahar as the Arrival Fallacy. He taught positive psychology and psychology of leadership at Harvard, and he is the author of books like Happier, also a world-renowned speaker on happiness, leadership, and well-being. The reason why I started looking into this is because, well, I experienced the arrival fallacy myself after I graduated with my master's in social work this summer. After giving birth to 3 children, 7 years of college, including 3 years of unpaid internships, long days, parenting, Zoom classes, extremely late nights writing papers, I had grand ideas of what my life was going to look like after I graduated. I would think, I'll finally stop being a drain on family resources. I will finally be able to provide. I will be able to truly help people and feel a genuine sense of purpose. I will finally feel accomplished. And then I will be happy. And as that day came, it's like I started waking up from my daydream and reality started to hit differently. There were so many questions that I didn't even consider. Like, if you're working full time, who will pick up your children? How much of your check is going to go to childcare? And does any of this even make sense right now? And then there was the added social pressure. Well-meaning acquaintances and family members would ask, What are you doing now that you have your master's degree? And where are you working? Questions that only rubbed salt into my wound. This milestone I'd poured everything into for the past 7 years didn't magically deliver this life of satisfaction I had imagined. And as I sought to understand why I was feeling all these ways, I was brought to the concept of hedonic adaptation, or the hedonic treadmill, the psychological phenomenon where no matter what happens to us, negative or positive, we quickly return to our baseline level of happiness no matter what occurs. The hedonic treadmill made sense to me why the arrival fallacy felt so real, even though it was so unrealistic. I was running on dopamine. The hedonic treadmill is powered by dopamine, not the happy chemical, but the anticipation chemical. Dopamine rises before you get what you want, while you're pursuing it. It fuels motivation, pushes you toward new goals, and keeps you striving. But once you finally achieve the thing you were chasing, the dopamine drops, and the sense of fulfillment fades just as quickly. As Fyodor Dostoevsky once said, man is a pliant animal, a being who gets accustomed to anything. And I probably butchered his name, but it's true. Us humans do adapt to everything. We've been through suffering, comfort, stress, success, trauma, disappointment, grief, loss, new responsibilities, new privileges, new identities. Think of everything that you've been through in your life, and you're still here today to this new psychological baseline of normal. No matter what changes in our lives, we get used to it. The highs fade, the lows soften, and what once felt extraordinary becomes your new normal. That's why your dream job might now just be work. That house that when you first walked into felt magical, it's now just home. The degree that once felt life-changing is now just another thing on the wall. Even joy becomes ordinary once it's repeated. And yet, even when we recognize that this is a common experience after success, we often feel isolated. As Tal Ben-Shahar quotes Diane Ackerman in his book, The Pursuit of Happiness, we sense that we are imposters, keeping our feelings a secret. We assume no one on earth is as neurotic, no one as uniquely flawed. I felt like this quote really captured the way I felt after graduation. I felt a mix of pride, let down, embarrassed because I had an unrealistic daydream of what my life would now look like, and then that sense that nobody else could understand it, which isn't true when we think of these concepts. And if they didn't have people who understood it, these concepts would have never existed. I feel like we see this a lot in professional athletes and sports too. Even after a big win or a championship, or a player hits a personal record, the focus immediately shifts to what's next, the next game, the next race, the next challenge. The joy of the achievement is so fleeting. But not everyone views it that way, and sometimes we need to remind people to stay in the moment. After the Milwaukee Bucks were eliminated from the playoffs, a reporter asked Giannis if he saw the season as a failure. The answer was simple but powerful.
You work towards a goal. It's not a failure. It's steps to success.
And that's the antidote to the arrival fallacy. Fulfillment doesn't live at the finish line. It lives in the steps, the process, the learning, the effort, and the growth. Every stage counts, not just the outcome. As the great Carl Rogers said, one of the founders of humanistic psychology, the good life is a process, not a state of being. It is a direction, not a destination. Once I started to view my master's degree journey through this lens, even though it didn't feel exactly as I imagined, I was able to appreciate the journey itself more and view it as meaningful, and see that the good life was in moving towards my goals, and I am still moving towards my goals. I decided to make this video because once I connected all of these ideas, the arrival fallacy, hedonic adaptation, and how dopamine drives anticipation more so than fulfillment, it finally made sense why I felt let down after success. It normalized it, and I could see nothing was wrong with me for feeling this way, and it's actually a very common human experience that we are wired to chase, to hope, imagine, and then to adapt. And even though the outcome didn't look the way I idealized it in my mind, the journey was still a success. The hard work still mattered, and the growth still happened. The meaning was in the process, not the arrival. Understanding these concepts helped me see my experience with clarity instead of more disappointment. And I hope that it can also do the same for someone else.